of Bob's Kitchen. Today we're going to make a delicious salad for a barbecue. We're going to make a Moonblush Tomato and Quinoa salad. Now, our first ingredient are these lovelies. These are called Moonblush Tomatoes. And basically you take your favorite kind of tomatoes, and I use plum tomatoes. I roll them in salt, olive oil, fresh thyme, fresh basil, and I leave them in the oven overnight. Great trick. You preheat the oven to 400, 450 degrees, and as soon as you put the tomatoes in, you turn the oven off. So last night I filmed a little segment on how to make these like this. Moonblush tomatoes are so easy. Once you learn to do this, you'll never do tomatoes a different way. So first, we're going to take plum tomatoes or grape tomatoes and half them. Now that we have our tomatoes cut in half, all we do is add the herbs, some salt, some olive oil, and some champagne vinegar, and we put it in the oven. The oven we set at 400 degrees, but as soon as you put the tomatoes in, turn it off, leave it till tomorrow morning. And believe me, when you see these tomorrow morning, it is flavorgasm on a plate. Let's add the herbs. Now this is fresh basil, and basil, when it's cut up like this, is really aromatic. And overnight in the oven, this is going to wake up your entire house, leave alone this tray of tomatoes. Then we're going to go once around with a sea salt grinder. We're going to add a splash. Now, I know this recipe sort of ticks some people off because my measurements aren't very precise. When I say a splash, I mean just splash the whole tomato set with this vinegar. Same with the olive oil. I'm just going to go once around the pan with the olive oil. We're going to toss, and into the oven we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All tossed with our fresh herbs, a little salt, champagne vinegar, and olive oil. Then we're going to put it in the oven, as I said, at 400 degrees. As soon as we put in the tomatoes, turn the oven off, leave it for 8 to 10 hours. This recipe could not be easier. See you in the morning. And after that, these are how these lovelies turned out. They sat in the oven for 8 or 10 hours, and look at them. They've broiled nicely. All the herbs are still there. This is going to fold perfectly into our salad. I mean, check that out. How yummier could that be? With our Moonblush tomatoes complete, it's on to the rest of the recipe. Here's a quick ingredients rundown. We have extra virgin olive oil, our champagne vinegar, a cup of raisins and craisins being dried cranberries, 2 cups of quinoa grain. We're going to cook that in 2.5 cups of low sodium chicken broth. Then in the center here, we have a chopped cucumber. Now, I was surprised when I went to the store that there are several different types of cucumber. Who knew? Well, the kind that you need for this recipe is called an English cucumber. And why? Because the skin is sweet and it's seedless. If you pick up the wrong kind of cucumber, sure, you can use it, but you're going to need to peel it and seed it. So pick up the English kind. Finishing things off is a splash of citrus. I have half a cup of fresh orange juice, and from that same orange, a couple of tablespoons of orange zest. Now, all orange zest is grated orange skin off the peel of the orange. Easy stuff. The surprise ingredient, besides our Moonblush, is a little bit of cumin. Now, cumin is really popular in South American and Indian cooking, and what it's going to do for today's recipe is give our salad just that little bit of smoky edge. It's going to add some color, and I tell you, you're going to add the cumin and go, wow, I'm going to start adding cumin to everything I make with cucumbers. It's really, really good, so let's get started. The great thing about quinoa is it's honestly, you put it in boiling chicken. The great thing about quinoa is how easy it is to make. We're going to take 2 cups of quinoa grain into, good Lord. The easy thing about quinoa is you honestly put it in the chicken broth and go away and leave it alone. We're going to boil chicken broth, we're going to add the quinoa, bring it all back to a boil, then turn it down to low heat, cover it, and come back in 20 minutes. So while we're waiting for the quinoa to finish on the stove, we can start combining our ingredients here. Now, as I said with the Moonblush, some of my measurements here are just to taste. Because all you're doing here is making a marinade, so some people like it a little more vinegary, some people like it a little more olive oily. So what I do is a splash around the bowl of champagne vinegar, probably a couple of tablespoons. Same with the olive oil, I like a pretty even mix. And then the rest of the ingredients, we're just going to fold in like this. And here, 20 minutes later, a lovely pot of quinoa. Now, you're just going to fluff this with a fork and let it cool for 10 minutes before we add it to our salad. Now, before you hit the YouTube comments or comments on my WordPress blog, yes, I did just call the grain quinoa. That's what I called it until this morning when I looked it up. It's actually pronounced quinoa. And so, I admit my mistake, but that last step was really important, to fluff it with a fork, let it cool for 10 minutes. Now, quinoa will bunch up if you just added all 2 cups of the grain into the salad at one time. So, I take a 1/4 cup measure and I just add a 1/4 cup at a time. And you'll just continue that process until you get the grains mixed in, and then you have a great salad. You have a delicious quinoa salad. We're going to cover this and refrigerate it for several hours until it's completely cool. And then we'll plate it with a side of feta and cashews. We're going to a barbecue, so you never know if somebody's going to have allergies to those as well. So, let's plate her up. There you have it, folks. A summer side salad with cucumber, craisins, raisins, cashews, feta, quinoa, and those amazing Moonblush tomatoes. As always, the recipes for Moonblush tomatoes and the quinoa salad are at bobinthekitchen.wordpress.com. This has been episode 27 of Bob's Kitchen. Happy Memorial Day. Have a great day.